Let's begin by giving praise to the Lord. First, to Reverend Trafont and the staff here at the Emmanuel Baptist Church, we thank you very much for organizing this ceremony as quickly as you did. Let's give them a round of applause for all their good work. To Carey Gabay, who has been welcoming and, as the Reverend said, courageous all through this terrible tragedy. Let's give her a round of applause for her strength and her beautiful words. To all of Carey's family, our prayer is with you, and we hope that you find some peace in the aftermath of this tragedy. To his extended family that is here from state government, where Carey spent a lot of time, some may say a little bit too much time. But we have the governor's office, we have members of the legislature, we have members of the Empire State Development Corporation. Alfonso David is here, who has been a great friend to him and a great friend in the bad days. To Mylan Dennerstein, former counsel, who loved Carey and worked with him hand in glove. Liz Fine from ESD, Howard Zemsky, dozens more who are here today. We consider ourselves his extended family. Some would refer to us as an extended dysfunctional family, to which I say it's still family. And if it wasn't for dysfunctional family, some of us would have no family at all, To those of you who met Carey during 43 years and loved him, because to have met him is to have loved him, we hope you come to terms with this apparently senseless loss. I think the question all of us ask this morning is the same, and the question is why? Why would God take Carey Gabay? Why would he take a caring, loving, why would a caring, loving God break the heart of this young, beautiful wife, Trinell, and his mother, Audrey, and his sisters, Crystal and Stephanie? Why would God, made of love, torment his brother, Aaron, and his stepfather, Rupert? What was the wisdom in taking Carey? This bright light, this shooting star, this beautiful young man with a heart of gold. I met Pope Francis this week, and a big part of me wanted to ask Pope Francis the same question. Pope, why? Why would God take Carey? We have no answers. The Lord gives us no answers. Instead, the Lord gives us faith. The Lord says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make straight your path. Proverbs 3:5-6. But still we search for a reason, some rationale to help us make sense of us, to help us find peace, to allow us to sleep at night. The way I sleep at night is that I believe Carey's life and death were not in vain, but a powerful message that has touched thousands in this city, state, and nation. People far and wide have heard about Carey and what happened, and the message is clear. Carey's life and Carey's death are a telling story with a timely message and a call to action. His death was one of the most tragic, pointless examples of the rampant violence that is spreading like a cancer through our society, especially in our poorer communities, and especially in our communities of color. His death, no, his murder, showed a disrespect for life so base that it didn't even care who it struck down. A violence so rampant that it targets at random. For Carey Gabay to be a victim of gun violence, how absurd. He's not a gang member, he's not a criminal, he's not a drug dealer, he's not involved in a turf war, but the most innocent of innocent victims. And that's the message the people have understood. It has gotten that bad. The violence has become so brutal, so aimless, that the most innocent can be struck down anytime, anywhere. There was Newtown, Connecticut massacre where 20 children ages 6 and 7 years old went to school one morning, kissed their mother and father goodbye, and never came home. Killed by a deranged young man with an assault rifle. Charleston, South Carolina, where 9 people in a church reading the Bible shot to death by a madman racist. 12 people in a movie theater in Aurora, California. Last month, Allison Parker, 24-year-old reporter, shot dead so her sick killer could post a video. 7 people were shot and killed in this city last weekend. And Carey Gabay, 43 years old, making a difference in life, married, hoping to start a family, ducked down for cover from shots he never caused, from a shooter he never saw, and never got up. Why? Well, maybe that's the way it is everywhere. Maybe there's nothing you can do about it. If only that were true. It's not. In England, there are only 62 deaths per year from a firearm. In this country, there are 11,000. That is the message of Carey's murder, that there is a senseless, brutal violence that exists today that destroys family and strikes down young people in their prime, that no one is safe, and that we should all be worried and angry, and that we should all be committed to doing something about it. And then there was the message of Carey's life, which is a much different message. A black man growing up in the Bronx in the 80s, living in public housing, the Boston Secor homes, a product of an inner city public education, was a prescription for a young man who could find trouble. Growing up in the 80s in public housing in the Bronx, there were many paths a young man could follow, and most of them were the wrong path. But Carey's life told a different story. That a young man with drive and values could still make it, still make the American dream a reality, and he could work himself up and out, not just of public housing and poverty, but that he could reach for the stars. Yes, he could even go to Harvard University. Carey's life said the sky was the limit. Carey's life said to an entire generation, young man, you don't have to take to the streets. You don't have to sell drugs to make a living. You don't have to join a gang for a sense of belonging. And you don't have to hold a gun in your hand to feel like a big man. You can accomplish and achieve and make something of yourself, and you can overcome your obstacles. And Carey's life said that when you have the skills and the education and the support that he had, you have a choice. With Carey's credentials and experience, he could have done anything he wanted to do. He could have sat in a big law firm, made $1 million a year, bought a big house in the suburbs, gone on vacation, and bought expensive jewelry for Trinell. Or he could say, I want to use these talents to help other people. And I believe that we can make this place a better place, and that we can help one another, and I believe that I can make a difference, and I believe that I have an obligation to make a difference. The choice was to do for himself or do for others. Carey lived by the wisdom, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? But if I am only for myself, who am I? Carey's life was about doing for others. That's what brought Carey to government. Carey believed government service was a way to help people, that he could use the law and he could use that Harvard education and that training to do justice. Following the words in the good book when our Lord says, but let justice run down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. Amos 5. Carey's life said it's not enough to curse the darkness. One should light a candle. Carey's life said Martin Luther King was right. The moral arc of the universe does bend towards justice, but that we have an obligation to make justice a reality and help that moral arc. Carey's life says intelligent government action is a vehicle for justice, social justice, racial justice, economic justice. And he did just that. Carey made a difference. In 2011, he drafted a bill that gave tenants more protection than any bill drafted in history. He worked on affordable housing plans that provided substitutes to failed public housing. He worked on anti-discrimination bills because he knew from his own life experiences that we still judge people by the color of skin rather than by the content of character. He worked on the SAFE Act, which was the smartest, strongest gun control bill in the United States of America, and working together, he got it passed. Now, Travell says, this isn't the end, it's just the beginning, that we'll continue Carey's mission. She said, and maybe even pass a law. We're going to do that, and we're going to do a lot more. Carey's action agenda was bold. A public education that could take every boy from public housing to Harvard University, and that didn't settle for failed public schools with second-rate equipment and second-rate standards, or politicians who protected the bureaucracy at the expense of the students. Carey saw decent public housing for everyone, which was a promise this country made in 1949, public housing that you could be proud of, not ashamed of, a job that pays a decent living minimum wage, so if you work full-time, you don't live in poverty. And a society that has more compassion and a government that has more competence than to allow homeless people to sleep on the streets and children to sleep in the squalor of shelters. That this great rich city of New York should hear the words of St. Francis and not just nod at the Pope's words, but act. Safe communities that protect innocent lives and at the end put an end to senseless killing and the violence that allows gangbangers, criminals, and the mentally ill to get a gun too cheaply and too easily. And Carey's life said, this is our responsibility. Each one in this church today to do something about it, to take a stand, to be committed, that the status quo is not okay and it's our place to stand up, that too many are suffering and too many are dying, and we must recall the words of Fannie Lou Hamer, that we are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and it's time that we do something about it. Carey said, apathy is the enemy, and it is part of the problem. We must speak up, we must act up, and we must say we're not going to take it anymore. The killing has to stop, the spread of gun violence has to stop, and it has to stop now. That our leaders should be judged by their deeds and not by their words. That it's not enough for New York State to pass a gun law and close the front door when the guns are coming in the back door, when the guns can come up from Virginia or South Carolina for anyone willing to take a car ride. That this nation's leaders have to show the resolve to end this scourge once and for all and demand real gun control nationwide. It's time for our national leaders to say that that is their top priority, to save lives of their constituents, with the same gusto and the same commitment that the far right pursues their agenda. If the far right is willing to shut down the government because they don't get a tax cut for the rich, then our people should have the same resolve and threaten to shut down the government if they don't get a real gun control law to stop the killing of their innocents. The resolve to say that we should be investing in young people and their future before their futures are lost. that a system that will pay as much to keep a 20-year-old in a prison cell as it costs to send Carey to Harvard University is an absurd injustice. Carey's life has impacted thousands about what is wrong in society and how to make it right. And Carey's life said loudly that each of us should recognize our obligation one to the other and our role in the ongoing crusade of justice. Now, I never asked Pope Francis why Carey Gabay was taken. But then again, over the past 2 days, I heard the Pope repeatedly speak about a young man who grew up in poverty and raised himself up and lived a life of love and selflessness, a life based in principle and sacrifice and values, a life of innocence and love, a life that was taken wrongfully, violently, tragically, a life too that was ended very early. But it was a life that sent a message that touched and inspired many, and still does today. And a spirit that lives on and inspires all of us. And maybe I didn't have to ask Pope Francis after all. Carey Gabay is a testament to the fact that it's not the number of years you live that determines the quality of your life. It's the impact of one's life. And it's how one's life was lived that counts. And because Carey is not gone, he is here today. And his spirit lives in me and in you and in you and in you and in you. And in the thousands of people who have heard that message and will carry it with them. And that, my friends, makes it easier for me to sleep at night. And I hope it makes it easier for you. God bless you.